This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hello Turkaholics, another week, another episode of Football a la Turca, and we decided to change things up a little bit. We're going to change our format once again, so please let us know what you think of it. My name is Kaan. I'm joined by Burak Sezgin, the man of the law, not Burak Yilmaz, Yakup Marofolo, and Umut Nadire. And Yakup, I hear you like the pronunciation, my pronunciation of the R in Marofolo. What's so?
Yeah, your sweet, sexy voice. It's just unbelievable, man. It's like straight kindness into my ears, man.
What? Okay, that's great. Anyway, now I'm a little bit from my milk.
that has thrown you completely off now, hasn't it? Carl? Completely. We don't know what to say.
I did not see that coming. No.
It's not very often that Khan is speechless, dear listeners. This might be, once in a blue moon.
We finally have a kryptonite, boys.
Finally. Hey, so Uzer's in the States, but we're all here in Europe, of course. Did you guys notice much of this big-ass storm that's gone through the continent?
Oh, yeah, we had a big amount of it in the UK, just the headlines. Certain little cities underwater, trees on the train tracks causing trains to be delayed. A popular one was people's trampolines that were in the garden were blown and actually hit trains that were actually moving. So they had to stop the train tracks. They had to put out a warning to people to say, if you have a trampoline in your garden, please nail it or tie it down because they're flying around. And yeah, I think there was like 480,000 homes without power at one point in the UK, and that was a storm. I forgot the name of it now. Chiari.
Chiari, yeah. Clara.
Yeah. So I think the weekend had the most of it. So I spent most of Sunday, actually all of Sunday indoors. I didn't leave the house because it was just horrendous weather. Yeah. Luckily, none of my fences in my garden blew down. Otherwise, that would be annoying. But it's wind and rain at the same time. It's just, and you saw a lot of teams playing football. There was a lot of games called off in England in the Premiership. Manchester City West Ham was called off. I think that was a 4 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday, and lots of other games in the north of England were called off as well. And I think we had one tonight actually, in the Turkish Süper Lig. I can't remember. Well, Göztepe, wasn't it?
Göztepe Rizespor was called off, but I don't think the storm's raging through Turkey, is it? It's just very cold and snowy weather there right now, I believe. Or did the storm hit Izmir?
I don't know. Was the game supposed to be in Göztepe, or was it in?
It was in Izmir, so it was a home game for Göztepe for tonight.
Maybe
it's not quite often you see snowing in Izmir, though.
Was it just the fact that Rize players couldn't travel because of the weather? I don't know if that's what it was.
Possibly, I'm not fully aware, but Umut told me that if it is snowing in Izmir, because of course he used to live there, it can be very biting cold, so to speak. When you're going through the cold and your face just. It's like they're stabbing knives in your face.
It's not when it's like snowing. It's just every winter. Like sometimes it's really cold that you cannot go outside because it's freezing outside.
And what about?
Of course, it's different than how Erzurum is, though.
Yeah, of course. And they are playing. I think tomorrow their league game Erzurum in the second division at 2 p.m. So very early, Anyway, Yakup, how's the Netherlands handling the current weather predicament? Anything blow away in your garden?
Well, we don't have a garden, but it's horrible, man. I'm used to a lot, but I don't know how it's in Belgium, but you know that the Dutch like to ride their bikes, and some of them even tried, but come on, common sense says don't do it.
I did it, but it was after the big storm, of course. Like I went to get the kids from school, my kid and his two cousin and his niece or whatever, and I went down a path that I always go down, and there was a tree in the middle of it, so I tried to lift it and move it, and I just couldn't drag it far enough because it was like close to a bench and stuff, so I couldn't get it past it, and I decided to just turn back and take a different route. But yeah, that's the story of the storm in Europe raging right now. If you're listening in the States, you're probably thinking, I don't know if they're having any of that, but of course those people are used to so a lot worse with all those tornadoes and stuff like that if you live in the wrong side of the States. Anyway, let's talk some football, and like I said, a little bit of a different format change. I did think that somebody recently said something on Reddit that they weren't a big fan of our recent format change. So yeah, I'm going to change up things a little bit, model it a little bit more like other podcasts that I personally like to listen to, and basically what that means is just shoot the breeze. So let's start talking about a little bit like the league leaders, of course, Sivasspor. They were hosting Başakşehir, who were, I believe, in second place due to Trabzonspor's postponement, or were they in third place at the beginning of this match day? I'm not sure. Anyway, this match ended in another draw. Sivasspor, for the third match in a row, not able to win. But how much do you think the weather really factors in here? Because I think for a team like Sivasspor, traditionally, it might be an advantage to play home games in January, February against the bigger teams, against the title contenders, and I think we can count Başakşehir among those in the last couple of years. Normally it would be an advantage because it would put the better team off, but right now I have the feeling that Sivasspor are kind of struggling under that. It's not the first time they drop points at home. Of course, 2 weeks ago they dropped points against Rizespor 1-1, and now they drop points again. They actually salvage a point because it was Başakşehir who took the lead through Dembaba. Yeah, any thoughts on this match, guys?
Well, it like you said in our group chat, it really looked like a bit of a winter wonderland in Sivas. In at least the one half of the pitch was caked in snow, and it was. You can say that Sivas might be, on the advantageous side playing at home in these conditions, but I don't think anyone is ever going to really enjoy or see the benefit of playing in that type of snow.
Yeah, especially not now, because they want to play football now,
Yeah, and how many? I want to know how many of the players did Sivas sign this season that maybe are not used to the Sivas conditions. Mm-hmm. The fans obviously are. You got the Sabah Kadar Borday Kamja, bless his soul, who's had his teeth done and had the juju put curse on Sivas. But it's not enjoyable to even watch football in that kind of weather because it's really hard to see the ball.
Yeah.
Even though and that's us on the TV, and you've got to think about the players who are playing with the snow thrashing down on them. They're obviously bloody cold running around, and makes things hard for goalkeepers. We saw like Matt drop a catch that nearly led to a goal.
Twice even, yeah.
But he made some great saves at the end from Mert Tarkan, and that shows that Mert versus Mert towards the end of the game when it was 1-1. But I think we're seeing. I don't know how this has happened to Sivas. I don't know if the winter break has maybe let things get to them, maybe get to the players who maybe are just not used to this level of playing at the top of the table. So maybe it's like a lack of experience there, but they've tried to just go about their business, but
yeah,
you can see that what a good side Başakşehir are. For this, the Dembaba goal was a little fortuitous, you could say. I think Sivas were quite unlucky not to be awarded a penalty, which we should discuss because of what it says in the rules. But there might be discussion around that for other people as well. But it was a very good headed goal by Yatabara to bring it to 1-1, and I think it was a fair result based on the two teams. But I don't think any team is going to ever have the advantage playing in those conditions, even though they live in that part of the country.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily true. I do think it does give an advantage to teams that probably don't want to play football, want to go for a point or whatever. But let's talk about that penalty position, guys. This was a position at 1-0 to Başakşehir here. Gail Clichy blocks an attempted cross with his foot, then jumps up against his arm. Sivasspor want a penalty, but yeah, the rules say if the ball comes off the player's body and then hits his arm, it's not a penalty. So I think the referee made the right decision.
His arm. He just carried the ball around.
Yeah, in slow motion it looks like that, but real time, I mean, it's not a movement. For me, it's not a penalty.
It's really tough because before each of these calls, I always open up my Adobe Acrobat. I open up the EFAB rulebook, which has the rules in there because, as we know, I am a man of the law, and the interpretation of this from the EFAB rules, just so our listeners get a good idea, it goes, except for the above offences, it is not usually an offence if the ball touches a player's hand or arm directly from the head or body, including the foot of another player who is close. Or, and it says, directly from the player's own head or body, including the foot. Now, the important thing to look at here, it says, it is not usually an offence.
Yeah, usually being the key.
Usually, so I mean, how the fuck do you define usually?
Yeah, and that's where the referees always kind of have an out because there's not a definitive black and white rule.
It's not right.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, coming from my point of view as a man of the law, if the ball had come off Clichy's foot as it did, and hit his arm and just gone off, for a corner, you could sit there and say, it's come off his foot, he's sliding on the ground and it's hit his arm and gone off. And you're like, okay, that's fair enough. But in this instance, he's got the ball under his arm, like a rugby or American football player, like wide receiver, and he's just carried it forward out off the pitch. Now, I think in that kind of situation, that should go to VAR. And the referee should review it on screen himself and think, well, I know the rule book says it's not usually an offence if it hits his arm after it's come off his own foot, but on this occasion, he's kind of carried it under his arm and taken it off the pitch.
Aren't we being misled a little bit by the slow motion replay that we're getting to see? Because if you look at it in real time, it's really not. I mean, yes, it hits his arm and it kind of stuck under there. It's not like he's making a conscious effort to grab the ball or anything.
I don't think he is either. I don't think he's actually done that on purpose. The ball's just ended up there, and he's tried to release his arm, but by the time he's realised what's happened, he's carried the ball forward a certain distance. And to me, the ref should look at that and say, well, I know it's not usually an offence, but this kind of takes the piss a little bit. But again, usually, not usually an offence. So how do you? That is like the grey area, right? And you're like, what happens? I'm interested to see what Umut and Yakup think about that as well, because we've heard enough from you, Kaan, already. So.
And Umut definitely seems to have a differing opinion, so let's have it.
I don't think we have to look at the slow motion there, but you can see that the ball is stuck under his arm right when Yasin Öztekin tries to cross there. It just bounces off from the ground and it's just got stuck under his arm. And if his arm wasn't there, the ball will be like Yasin's position. And it will be like a threatening attack for Sivasspor. I don't know if you agree, but
Yeah, that's true, but I don't think you take that in. That's not something that's part of the rule. You don't like. I think that's a. I've argued in the past that I think it's a good idea to add something to the handball rule that says if the defending team gains an advantage, but of course that's something that's open to interpretation too. But we're gonna get
also,
to a position
in any
later.
case, you should have been going to VAR for the referee's view, because I don't think he did see the position by that kind of angle. It's just on the end of the pitch, and I don't see referee anywhere near the ball in the screen.
Yeah, but VAR is constantly in the referee's ear. They're talking, they're communicating with the ref, and they're letting him know what they think, and then they decide. Then they say, well, maybe you should come take a look or not. But you have to keep in mind. I mean, the people in the VAR room are also referees, so they know the rules supposedly.
Oh
but what do you think? Is a penalty then for you?
I think it's a penalty.
Okay, Yakup, what do you think? Do you think it should have been a penalty for Sivas?
I don't know. It's in first look, it kind of looks like a penalty, but as Umut said, when you look at it from a different angle, from slow motion, you can see that the ball just gets wedged under his arm. So it isn't like a deliberate thing. I really don't know. I'm not as good as Burak is with the laws of the game. So I'm not saying that what I'm saying is correct, but I probably would have given that a penalty. But there's a reason that I'm not on the pitch. I'm sitting here and that guy's on the pitch. So.
But I think another thing to take into consideration is the arm in an unnatural position, and I think the answer there, for me at least, is no. So,
no, yeah. As I said, it doesn't look like he does it deliberately.
Yeah.
It looks really weird. It looks like when you're playing a game and the game is lagging, and it looks like that.
Yeah.
But
for me, that's 100% not a deliberate handball. Plus, it comes off his own feet. I don't see how you give a penalty for that.
Yeah.
Burak, man of the law, what do you think?
I still say it falls into the area of subjectivity, where again it's underlined. This is the EFAB rules which have been rewritten. The handball rules have been rewritten to supposedly give us better clarification. But it looks like they've taken the easy way out by saying it is not usually an offence if the ball touches a player's hand arm directly from a player's own head or body, including the foot. So I think 1 week a referee gives it and 1 week a referee doesn't give it, and they can easily go back to a rule book to say, well, my interpretation was, I know it's not usually an offence, but that seemed like an offence to me. But we as fans and the managers and the press never get to hear that as well. So I would give that as a penalty purely because he's carried it a specific distance off the pitch. Because if it just hit his hand and gone off for a corner, I would have said, okay, that falls under the law where it's come off his foot and he's just gone off for a corner. But because he's carried it a certain distance, I think for me that takes it out of the realm of usually not being an offence to being an offence.
Yeah, but it kind of falls under the same rule then, I think, where when a player falls on a ball with their hand in between their body and the ball, which is not a handball either. So I think it kind of falls under that same thing. Anyway, for me, it's really just not a penalty. But let's move forward and let us know what you think on Twitter if you thought it was a penalty for Sivasspor or not.
Let us know.
Yeah, let's move to last season's champions Galatasaray, who are on a 5-match winning streak after beating Kasımpaşa 3-0 this match day. Pretty easy, straightforward win for Kasımpaşa. A friend of mine was trying to tell me that he was convinced that Kasımpaşa... Yeah.
Galatasaray.
What? Yeah. Did I say...
Easy win for Kasımpaşa, you said.
Oh, an easy win over Kasımpaşa then.
Okay.
Anyway, a friend of mine was trying to tell me that that Kasımpaşa were going to be able to hold Galatasaray to a draw. I told him it's going to be 2-0 for Galatasaray within 30 minutes. I literally said that. And lo and behold, easy win for Galatasaray. Kasım Pasha making it very easy for them, in fact, by one of the most comical goals I think we'll see all season. Although Feghouli did his best to get that ball in there still, because there was a defender at the near post and he still somehow managed to squeeze that in. But Fatih, the goalkeeper, Fatih Öztürk from Kasım Pasha, running into one of his teammates and staying down. And no goalkeeper in the goal, and Feghouli slots it home. Easy win for Galatasaray. The biggest takeaway, I guess, is Marcelo Saracchi. After 2 minutes, Umut had to be taken off again after a little sprint. Seems to have re-aggravated that hamstring injury. Came back a little early. I think you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I think it's a bad situation Galatasaray is in, because how Saracchi was transferred is to balance the two wing backs of Galatasaray to be like equally used. But right now we rely on Martin Lines right now, which is not a great attacking threat, to be honest. And him being injured is kind of a bad thing for Galatasaray. He was just down there chasing Ricardo Quaresma and signaled to Fatih Terim to sub him off. And Muslera came in to understand what's going on, and he just wants to get out of the game. And I was sure then his injury went back on. I think he'll be out for a week or 2 weeks. Pretty sure he won't be playing in the Alanya Cup game.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be out for 3 to 4 weeks initially. That was lowered down then to 2 to 3. But when did he get injured? Because he seems to be back really quick. This seems like just 1.5 weeks. I think
it's a physio fault that he's been like mistakenly given permission to play too early than he usually these injuries usually came back.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to be subbed off after just 2 minutes, it's clearly an issue there. I think with the physiotherapist and the medical staff just not. Yeah, shouldn't have cleared him. I think. But Martin Lines came on as a sub.
Yeah, but
did a good job.
It costs you a sub.
Yeah, of course.
It would be a tough situation Galatasaray were in if there was another injury in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Galatasaray, so like I said, 5-match winning streak. They're coming out of the gates, firing at all cylinders. Of course, I think we do have to mention with that they have had an easy schedule, I would dare say. Right before the winter break, of course, they trashed Antalyaspor, who at the time were in very poor form. Of course, they made some good moves in the winter transfer period, but they were in a poor form. They've also now beaten Konyaspor 3-0 away since January. Konya in a terrible form. Now Kasım Pasha, who I think right now are alongside Kayseri, probably the weakest side in the league. Kayseri, another team that Galatasaray beat in that 5-match winning streak. I think the only real test they had in those 5 games was Denizlispor, and that was by the skin of their teeth. So Galatasaray going to go into a tougher schedule in the coming weeks. First, they have a struggling Malatya next week. That's going to be another relative easy 3 points, supposedly, on paper. But after that, they have the Fenerbahce derby. They'll face, in the weeks following that, they'll face Sivasspor and Beşiktaş. So they have some tough games coming up. So they're fortunate now that they're able to build up some steam and some confidence.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule now, and they play Sivas and Beşiktaş back to back, and then they play 2 weeks later. They play Başakşehir and Trabzonspor back to back. So, they had an easy start to the second half, but it's going to be really difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll have Falcao back probably, but I think we're kind of being misled right now. Galatasaray's form and they're meddling at the top of the table. They're there. There's a lots of positive vibes now around Galatasaray. Of course, morale and all that is very important. So this is good for them. This is going to give them a very good chance going into that tough schedule. But I want to wait and see how they come out of that, because take, for example, Fenerbahce. If you look at the schedule that they have had since January, since the competition started up again, yeah, they dropped a lot of points, but also look at who they played. They played, of course, Başakşehir here. They played Trabzonspor. They played Alanyaspor. Who else did they play? Like they had another tough game, I believe, in the opening 4 weeks now.
Gaziantep away.
Gaziantep. Yeah, Gaziantep away.
Gaziantep, but that wasn't too tough. But what was the other one? Is that the only one they've had? But anyway, three teams from the top 7 in those 4 fixtures. You know, Galatasaray haven't had a single one. Galatasaray have had the easy relegation sides, the struggling sides like Konya. They're going to get Malatya now. And this is the same thing can be said for Başakşehir here. They have had Sivasspor now. They have had Fenerbahce, of course. Beşiktaş have had, who have they had? Sivasspor. They've had a very tough away game in Göztepe, who opened their new stadium. And Sivasspor, of course, have had Beşiktaş, Fenerbahce, Başakşehir here now. So I think we need to look at Galatasaray's good run right now, and we'll have to wait and see in 4 more match days or so how they're standing then, I think. And Kasımpaşa, let's talk about them, because they're really struggling. But Burak, you wanted to say something.
I think Galatasaray have just been going about their business as the league burns at the top of the table with just absolutely horrendous tomfoolery and shithousery. You could say that Galatasaray were just laying low, making the most of their fixtures. You can only beat who's in front of you, and they've been doing that. Mm-hmm. Yes, they've had a few injuries, and they've been doing okay without some of their more key players. But the other players, you could say Arden Büyük has stepped up to fill the gap, but he stepped
4
up against
goals in 3 games or something.
But again, he stepped up against the lower teams. Could he do that against teams that are in the top 6? But that's neither here nor there. They've done exactly what would have been expected of them, is like you say, build up a roll of form. Mm-hmm. And everything was going really well, and then out of nowhere, Mustafa Cengiz, that Adanalı pitch, just comes out on TV and just lights the blue touch paper. And I'm sitting there thinking, why? The team is playing really well, and I want to say they're playing really good football, but they're winning football games and they're scoring goals.
And they're winning easily. Apart from Denizli, they won those games very easily.
Yeah, and the rift between Cengiz and Fatih Terim seems to have been brushed away and not mentioned. But then he comes out with these just crazy statements, almost thinking, well, hang on, we're feeling a bit left out here. Let's join the fun and absolutely throw a spanner into the works. So I really don't get him, but like I say, he's an Adanalı pitch, so it's probably in his blood. So there's no need to light the blue touch paper, and I know he's doing it ahead of the derby as well to stir things up, which is what we don't need.
Yeah, all your hate at Brachiosaurus on Twitter, dear Galatasaray fans.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You won't be able to.
Kasımpaşa, though, Umut and I did a transfer episode, a special episode last week on Friday. I don't know if you've listened to it, guys, or the listeners have listened to it yet. Go check it out. But we discussed Kasımpaşa and how they let go, I think, 5 or 6 of their starters this January. And for me, in the first half of the season, they were kind of like a mediocre side, a team that probably weren't going to struggle tremendously and probably were going to stay in it. And they've gone from that to, in my eyes, one of the prime candidates now to relegate, just because they let go of a bunch of decent players. I mean, Siam Ben Youssef, for me, was one of their best players, and so was Karim Hafez. And then who else did they let go? Abdulkadir Khalili, they let go Popov, Strahil Popov. He went to Hatayspor in the 2nd division, who are top of the table, by the way. So, yeah, they let go of a lot of good key players. Mustafa Pektimek went to Alanyaspor. Very surprising. And if you look at their run of form in the second half of the season, they look in a very poor shape. And also in this match, I mean, Galatasaray scored 3 in the first half, but they could have easily added 3 or so more in the second half. It's, I don't know. It feels like Kasımpaşa threw in the towel. and I don't see why, because they weren't in a terrible position going into the second half of the season.
I think it's the Ricardo Quaresma effect.
Who knows? Yeah, he had a nice little nasty little stamp on the back of the heel early in this match too, I think.
Yeah, I was so pissed off.
I can
He should have been suspended or in a yellow card at least, but nothing was given.
And this was early in the match, so yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's that Besiktas mentality. It's hard to get rid of it.
Yeah, totally.
No, but what I on a serious note, I think that Kasımpaşa is having a bad time whenever especially the keeper. Fatih Öztürk, a Trabzonspor player for a while. For I don't know what a horrible time that was. But I know that Burak can also attest to this, that he can have like the greatest game ever. He can be like the Oliver Kahn in goal. But this game, it was just such a horrible game. It's not his sole problem. He's not the sole person to blame for this. But the team is just so, I don't know. It doesn't look like a professional football team. It for some reason it just looks so unconvincing on the pitch. They are horrible in the striker position. They have nobody. I don't understand why they send away Pektemek. He might not be the best striker, but he's a guy that has proven himself a couple of times, and he knows the league. Trezeguet, obviously for a lot of money, and they didn't do anything with all that money. They got 10 million for him, but they just didn't do anything with it. It's so unbelievable. They got 10 million and they spent 650,000 euros.
Yeah, they got 10 million for Trezeguet. They got, in the middle of the season, they got 10 million for Diagne plus 3 million in bonuses. So they're 23 million on two players. And now they're letting go half of their team. And it kind of, there's nothing been said about it, but like if you look at the only other teams that do that are teams that aren't paying their players and players who are terminating their own deals, and all these guys have left on free transfers, and all these guys are guys that are in except for Mustafa Pektemek, who's 30 or 31, but I think Popov is 29, Karim Hafez was a loan from Egypt, but that's a loan that got terminated, and he's 24. Khalidi is 27. Who else did they let go? It's not like they're cutting the fat from the 30-plus-year-old guys that earn a lot of money or anything. It's a very weird, bizarre situation, and I think Kasımpaşa are going to go down this season. And I, for one, won't really miss them, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Of course, they are Beşiktaş's black sheep. Anyway, I think we said enough about that. Let's go to another match in the relegation zone. Kayserispor Antalyaspor. This match ends in a 2-2 draw. 2 penalties, one for either side. I did not notice if Diego Angelo was involved in any of that. Umut, did you notice?
No.
Yeah, but apart from that, this was a match, I think, not too much going on here in terms of controversy. 1 goal disallowed, Lukas Podolski, but that was a correct decision, offside. He scored just 2 minutes after coming on, but it got disallowed, of course. He was also involved in the build-up to the equalizer for Antalyaspor. Neither side really helped by a point. They need to win games. Antalyaspor, of course, we all are thinking, I think they're going to stay in it. They had a good January window. Lots of panic buys maybe, but they were down there, so they needed to do something. But thus far, it's not really kicked into high gear yet for them.
Well, you say that there's not much controversy in these games, but I've noticed on both the penalties that were awarded, don't have an issue with the penalties that were being awarded, but both of the penalties should have been retaken, because on both of the penalties there was encroachment by an attacking player. And we consult the rule book because I'm a man of the law, and it says outcome of the penalty kick, if it's a goal but there's encroachment by an attacking player, the penalty has to be retaken. Now,
it almost never happens. Huh?
Of course it doesn't happen, but it happens in other games where goalkeepers are coming off their line.
Yeah, when they saved the penalty, then you kind of have to look at it. They're just directly involved. These encroaching attacking players aren't involved.
No, but the rule is that the penalty is retaken. Yeah. So So that it doesn't matter if the attacking player is 1 meter inside, if they're 20 centimeters inside. You can't have a rule that needs to be enforced, and you're not enforcing it because it's like, nah, it's an attacking player. The ball's gone in. Let's not worry about it. No, if you're doing that, we need to have a look at every single penalty, and this is the stuff that they need to teach the referees.
No, they need to change that rule. I don't think they need to teach the referees to have those penalties retaken, because that's silly.
No, that's bullshit. Whilst the rule is here, we have to fucking abide by it.
But it's silly. It's silly.
It's
silly
stupid.
If you're going to retake every single penalty for that.
But that's the fucking rules, Kaan.
Yeah, I'm saying
that's the fucking rules. What do you expect me to do?
Change the damn rule instead of
change the rules, but until
a silly rule.
But until the rules have been changed, you have to enforce them, and they're not being enforced.
Yeah,
it's like saying it's okay. I'm gonna stab you, but I'm not gonna get fined or told off for it because it happened in a certain way. That's what it is. All we want to see is the rules upheld. They're clear as day. I'm happy to post them on the website for everyone to see, so that on the outcome of a penalty kick, whether it's a goal or it's not a goal, depending on what's happened, encroachment by an attacking player, encroachment by a defending player, offence by a goalkeeper, ball kicked backwards.
I'm not arguing the rule. Look, if a penalty is taken, goalkeeper saves it, hits the post, attacking player encroaches and hits the rebound, of course you have to retake. And the same thing goes if the rebound gets cleared by a defender that encroached. 100% agree. But if those guys aren't getting involved, then no need to overcomplicate things. And yes, that's a rule that should be amended, and that probably should be added if those guys get involved in any sort of a rebound or anything. But yeah,
but that's not what the rule says. It just says encroachment.
It's the same thing as a back pass that almost never gets enforced. And how many times do we see a goalkeeper pick up a back pass?
A lot of times, but
exactly.
The number of times that a penalty has been retaken, both have been given against Fenerbahce.
Yeah, but both were because the goalkeeper was off his line way too quick. Well, the first one was ridiculous, and the second one was okay, But both were because the goalkeeper is off his line too quickly and saves it. Of course, then VAR has to look at it.
They also have to look at it if a player encroaches, because that's what it says in the rule book.
Yeah, it's not the same thing, Burak.
It is the same thing. It's the rule.
It's not the same thing because it has no. One thing has no impact on the outcome, and the other one does. So it's not the same thing. Apples and oranges.
That's not what it says in the rules, Kaan.
I don't care. It's not the same thing.
So you don't care about the rules? Are you saying you don't care about the rules? Because that is exactly
I care about the rules.
Saying.
It's a silly rule that needs to be amended. As I said, it does not impact the outcome.
But until it's amended, you have to follow the letter of the law.
Let's have Umut and Yakup. What do you think? Should this be enforced, guys? Or is it silly?
It's the law.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Umut, should the penalties get retaken?
Fucking rule book, guys.
I'm not arguing that. Not arguing that.
I'm more closer to Kaan's way of thinking because, if it's scored and there is nobody having an impact to the ball or the set piece taker, penalty taker, then why should you retake it? What's the point?
Ask EFAB, not me. I didn't make the rules.
But you're the man of the law, damn it. Yakup,
exactly, that's why I'm arguing that they should be retaken, because it's in the rule book.
Yeah, it should per the rules, but in the spirit of football, come on.
Spirit of football, my ass.
Yakup, do you agree with Burak?
I mean, I'm going to disagree with him just to piss him off. No, but I to be fair, I always thought that this rule was a weird rule.
Yeah.
But I do think that if it's rebounded by the keeper, so if it's saved by the keeper, and then a player that went into the box got it should be retaken. But if you just keep on watching and keep on calling for a retake every time that a player gets into the box, probably you'll have like a penalty in the 40th minute, and you'll have like added time 15 minutes because you just keep retaking it. I don't know. I kind of agree with Kaan.
If they want to make a point out of it, then they need to start giving out yellow cards every single time.
Yeah.
And the only time I've ever seen that happen was when Atiba got 2 yellow cards for stepping on the goddamn line.
How did he dare to do that, though?
Oh yeah, how did he dare to do that? Ask Halis Uskaya. Anyway, let's stay in the relegation zone for a bit here. Malatyaspor Ankaragücü. Malatyaspor, again, in our bonus episode on the transfers, we spoke about this. Malatyaspor might be having to look down because they had a good first half of the season. Obviously, didn't win a lot of matches in in the last 5-6 match stretch or so, but they had a good first half of the season. Had a good little run in Europe. Got cut short, unfortunately, because there's no VAR in the Europa League qualifiers, and they always should have had a penalty against Partizan. But yeah, now things going from bad to worse for them. They're losing at home to Ankaragücü. Not a particularly good game, in my opinion. I think this was the debut of Mustafa Resit Akçay as the new Ankaragücü coach, or was he already in charge last week?
I think it was his debut.
Okay. So, big moments here. Mustafa Akbaş getting sent off because he handles a true ball. Urgil would have been one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He sticks up his hand to slap that out of there. He's playing volleyball, basically, and gets sent off, red card, and then a fantastic goal by Urgil after a good little win in the middle of the park from Thiago Pinto. They showed that a couple of times, I think maybe looking for a fall, but for me that was just a good steal in the middle of the park. But yeah, Ankaragücü with a very important win for them. Malatyaspor, what do you guys think? Are they going to be in trouble? Are they going to be involved in that relegation dogfight? Burak is still seeding, so he's not jumping in.
Wait, did you say Malatya or Ankaragücü?
Malatya, yeah. Ankaragücü, of course, are in the thick of things as it is anyway, but I think Malatyaspor, they're in a dangerous position.
Not really, though. They are
not yet, but
yeah, they're only
they have to improve, and there's no signs of them improving anytime soon.
Yeah, but you know, I do think that Malatya has a decent team. We
lost their best players. Guilherme gone.
Yeah.
Yahovic gone. Yeah.
No, but you know, they got some players that that when they have a good day, they are really good. But it's all filled with
mention names.
I'm sorry.
Mention names.
the 9mm himself, Gökhan Töre. You have.
Oh my God.
the legend from Kayseri. You have, you know,
the legends from Kayseri. Who are you talking about?
Umut Bulut.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know, and they don't have like they don't have the biggest, the hardest schedule. They play Galatasaray next week, and then they play Antalya, Denizlispor, and Konyaspor, who are all a bit shaky. Denizli is maybe a little bit okay, but I don't know. Maybe I'm an optimist. They even have fucking Icardia. I didn't even know that. Holy shit.
Yeah, but he's been there for like 2 years and he hasn't played almost
a single minute.
Yeah, it's like Moussa Sow at Gaziantep, who was released, by the way, in the January window. But I don't know, man. Antalyaspor, they're gonna be eager to win. They bought a lot of quality. Who else did you say? Denizlispor, for me, that's I don't see this Malatyaspor beating Denizlispor. And yeah, Konyaspor we'll talk about a little bit later, but they might have a little breath of fresh air going through that club. So I wouldn't be surprised if Malatyaspor in the next 4 games doesn't get more than just a handful, just a couple of points. If that, I wouldn't be surprised if they left with 0 points from that schedule.
I mean, I think the biggest strength they have is that they have Kemal Özdeş as a coach.
Yeah, good coach, true.
You know, so they have something that they can build on. And I don't know what place did they finish last year? Were they also like in the relegation zone?
No. They were like top 10. They were even competing for. Well, they went to Europe. So what was it, like fifth or sixth? I guess that they ended. 'Cause they went to the Europa League.
Last year they ended the league in 10th position. No, fifth. So it can still happen. They aren't that much off of last year. They had 47 points in all games.
Yeah, so
but it's hard, but I think it's doable.
I don't think so. I'm not that confident on them. Burak, what do you think?
They don't have a bad goalkeeper and centre back, so you've got Mina and Farnell, who I think on their day Farnell can make some good saves, and Mina is quite an impressive figure at the back. And if that fails, then Farnell will just step off his line before a penalty kick is taken, and they won't have it retaken.
Yeah, that should have been retaken. You're right, Burak.
But don't forget they've got superstar Robin Yelchin, who will score the odd banger, but then disappear for like 5 or 6 games.
But do you think those the replacements for Jahovic though, and did they replace Guilherme? Because they got in Umut and they got in that ice, what is it, ice Finn or Finland or striker
something.
Yeah, from
Rostov.
I think they're lesser quality replacements, and they've still got to adapt to playing in an extremely toxic football league, which the other players would have been used to. Yeah. So I think by the time they've kind of got their feet under the table, it's already going to be halfway through the second half of the second part of the season. But I think there's just a little bit too much quality there for them to go down. I think they're still above the likes of Kasım Pasha, Kayseri, Antalya, Konya, even Ankara Gücü to some extent, who I think are quite poor. They had a very important win this weekend. But I think get the Galatasaray game out of the way for Malatya, and then we'll see if Kemalözdeş can work some magic to at least get them to safety. I think they can forget maybe a top half finish, but somewhere between 11th and 14th is probably what they're looking at, unless they completely dive bomb and start playing the level of football that we're seeing from Kayseri, Kasımpaşa, and the others around the area.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that they lost Guilherme at like the end of the transfer period. So they didn't really have a guy to replace him with.
They knew that was coming, though. They know.
Yeah, I think, in my honest opinion, I think that Adil Gevrek just thought that he could like strong arm Trabzonspor, and I honestly think that he thought for some reason that Guilherme was going to be forced to stay. But even if he went in a normal way, they lose a big attacking presence, with Guilherme gone.
And you need to keep in mind they had Alexic too last season, who was really good for them. Both of those stars for them now. Guilherme and Alexic were their two big guys last season. Both are gone. They're 7 points above the drop-off zone right now, and that's fine for the moment. But I think they're going to be struggling. I think they're going to be in that dogfight, especially if Konyaspor with the spoiler alert with the new coach, because Konya sacked or mutually terminated their agreement with Aykut Kocaman after their 0-0 draw.
Good things do happen in the world, guys. Just keep believing.
And Ankara, of course, with that win now within striking distance, 3 points off of Konya. So Konya feeling the warm breath of Ankara in their necks. So let's talk a little bit about Konyaspor. Was it time to cut the Aykut Kocaman era short after the bad results that they have had this season? But I think if you look at it and step back and look at where they came from, his first stint, of course, third place finish, cup win, Super Cup win. Then he went back to Fenerbahce, and then he came back to Konya after a season. And really, ever since he's come back, they haven't been able to recapture that schwung, that form. Plus, I mean, he doesn't really have an excuse because all of the players, he had 100% say in the transfer policy of Konyaspor, and most of them were still there from his first stint. So it is on him, right?
I mean, as a guy that numerously on like several occasions has said that I don't like Aykut Kocaman. They did their schedule is maybe the worst of all. Um, I'm looking at it now. Their last win was on January 17th against Ankaragücü, and the last win before that was in October. So they went like a solid 3 months without a win. But if you just take a look, they played against Fenerbahçe, Gençler Birliği, Sivas, Beşiktaş, like all after each other. Then they played Başakşehir, Trabzonspor, and Alanyaspor. And then a week after that, they played Galatasaray. So they do have like a horrible schedule. But numbers don't lie, as is said. And yeah, he should be the one that is held accountable for how the team is doing. But I honestly don't think that any other manager would do better. At the end of the day, a lot of people just figured out how Aykut Kocaman lets his teams play. The lockdown defense, just the park the bus defense. So maybe.
Yeah, but we haven't seen that this season because their defending this season hasn't been good. It's just Serkan making one save after the other, and they're just completely relying on him right now.
Yeah,
and on top of that, they struggle tremendously with scoring goals.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the team, they don't have like a really bad team, to be honest.
On paper, yeah. Bajic, 1 goal in 17 matches, if I'm not mistaken. Their new striker now, Thuram, shows a lot of spirit, shows tenaciousness, but only 4 matches, no goals yet. There's just not enough quality there, I think. And at the end of the day, Aykut Kocaman was in charge of the transfer policy. He decided who to get and who not to get. I think Konya do have a little bit of money to spend because of their performances in recent years. So they should have just invested more, I think. And of course, Burak, firsthand, Aykut doesn't like to work with big stars. But does he go a little bit too much on the obscure Balkan signings?
I don't think so. I just think like Yakup said, Aykut's got a particular style of football which is defensive, and he's actually said this himself. I think he was quoted recently saying, that the football is too attacking. In the Super League, you have to focus on building from the back and having a solid base. And you look at the defenders he's got there in and Anicic, and Serkan Kırıntılı in goal. So you would think that's a decent solid base for him. And then he's got some decent players. I think Milosevic is a good player on his day. He can cause teams a lot of trouble, but I just think, like you said, there's no one with. It's a really weird one because we've said they don't have the most horrendous team on paper. They're just not performing. And maybe it needs a new manager to inject some attacking life into them, whether that's someone like Ünal Karaman, who has been linked with the job currently and nothing clear yet. And I don't know what other managers are out there and available right now to kind of
Abdullah
rejuvenate.
Avcı is on their list apparently.
I don't see him.
And who else? Let me see. Because shout out to our guy Konyaspor Pride on Twitter. Great follower of Konyaspor, of course, and he has some connections at the club. So he said Avcı or Yalçın Keşukkavak or Ünal Karaman. Those are the 3 main candidates. I'm not familiar with Yalçın, but of course Abdullah Avcı and Ünal Karaman are everyone will know those guys, of course.
I mean, I think they could probably do with, like I say, I'm not too familiar with this Yalçın fellow either, but if it was a choice of Avcı or Ünal, I'd probably go Ünal. I think he'll have more of a chip on his shoulder and more of a point to prove.
Yeah, not just that, plus he'll play more offensive football. He's more inclined to play offensive football. With Avcı, you're getting a bit of the same, I think. Okay, he's not as defensive-minded as Aykut is, but Avcii's first tactic, or how should I put it, the first thing Avci does when he comes into a new club is try and, establish that defensive collective. It's something that Bruno Bottaro got out of him when he interviewed him 2 or 3 years ago, and that's something Avci said to him, that his first focus, the first season or so, is to establish a good cohesive defensive unit. And I think Konyaspor fans are probably, they probably want something else right now. And maybe Ünal Karaman could be the man for the job. But then again, they're in a very difficult position right now. 20 points from 21 matches, 3 points above the relegation drop-off. Not very good for them. That's not a job that's going to be easy, I think, because the squad, I don't know. For me, the problem, even when they finished third, I think their main issue was they didn't really have really good players. Like Nate Skubic was performing tremendously in that period, but then we've seen him have quite some drop off. Like last season, he wasn't impressing anyone. This season, he's been even less so impressive. So, yeah, I don't know. Those were the types of players that did add something to that side, and of course they had with Jagos Vukovic a very strong defender, and I just don't think they ever really fully replaced him at the back. Yeah. Anyway, let's delve into something more meat on the bones now. Fenerbahce Alanyaspor. This was, I think, the big talking point coming out of the weekend, because there's a lot of controversy. Fenerbahce really upset following the full-time whistle. 1-1 draw, of course. 3 penalties we saw, multiple penalty shouts. Alanyaspor got 2 penalties, missed twice, got a retake, and scored that one, of course. Fenerbahce also scoring from the penalty spot through Max Kruse. First, let's talk a little bit about those penalty positions. The first one for Alanya, the one for Fenerbahce, and the second one for Alanya. Burak, what did you think of those 3 penalties?
Oh God, where do we start with this one? Well, the first one is the handball from Jarlson. Now, looking at it right now, I think the ball comes in from a throw-in. And it does, and then it comes off. I think it's Cisse. He tries to backheel it, and Jarlson has got his hand out behind his back, trailing, and it hits his hand. And let's ignore the fact that if it doesn't hit his hand, it's going to go through to maybe another. Actually, it still ends up at the feet. I think it's Efecan. Ends up at Efecan's feet after hitting Jarlson's hand. So it's not actually interfered with the trajectory of the ball at all. But, you can see it's quite clearly hit his trailing hand. Now, if we look at the rule book, you could say that the hand has made the body unnaturally bigger because it's not down by his side. And it's trailing behind him. It's almost his arm is stretched out behind him, but the hand is underneath his ass. So
it wasn't ridiculously high, no.
It wasn't ridiculously high, but we've seen those penalty positions given. But we've also seen them not given, and we looked at 2 similar positions earlier in the season. The Fenerbahce versus Antalyaspor game, where I think it was Isla crossing a ball into the box. It comes off the Antalyaspor player's hand in a similar position. I think it's Diego, and that was no penalty. Don't think that went to VAR. And then you have the Alanya Beşiktaş, where it hits Dembabar's hand. Atiba's hand. Sorry. Sorry. I've got Dembabar up on my screen, scoring his goal for Başakşehir, and I think the Dembabar, the fucking Dembabar. It's like you called me Burak Yilmaz, isn't it? It's the Atiba and the Jarlson positions are more similar to each other. The Antalyaspor position is still quite similar because the player's hands stretched out behind him. Now, 2 of those weren't given as a penalty, and this was given as a penalty. Now, where I have the issue is the ineptitude and incompetence of Turkish referees to not be able to get anything consistent. But looking at that from letter of the law, you could argue that Jarlson's trailing hand has made his body unnaturally bigger because it's behind him. Now, obviously, that's a running motion, and it's more defined because you can actually see the ball strike his hand, and then his hand moves when you look at it in slow motion. So,
but does it move? Does it move toward the ball, or does it move because the ball hits his hand? That's something I had some difficulty with. When I was watching, I wasn't really sure, because does he like flinch and hit it on purpose, or is he like does it just hit his hand and his hand naturally reacts? Because of course a ball coming in at some speed, it's gonna have a. It
looks like when it's back-heeled and his arm's coming down, just the motion of the arm coming down whilst you're running, and it slaps his hand, and because of the hand slap, it's more accentuated to someone, and for me, I have no issue with that being a penalty, but like you said, the early positions in the season and the throbs on one last week when it came off the guy's hand when we took a shot at the end. Now, if we look at the penalty save by Altay, now people have been replaying this backwards and forwards, and that they have one position where the ball is coming off Cissé's foot and Altay is about 10 centimeters off the line, and then if you rewind it by a couple of fractions of a second, you have Cissé's boot making initial contact with the ball, and it looks like Altay's foot is still on the line. So that's the kind of millimeters we're talking about here.
Yeah. He has that reputation now, of course, because of how gross his infraction was in that Malatya game, I guess, and I think that's working against him here, because this one was definitely not as obscene as that previous one, because I think there he was like 1 meter or 1.5 meter off his line already by the time the ball was struck, and it was definitely not the case here.
Yeah, the previous one was just horrendously, really far off the line. This one, they say, a cat's whisker or a hair's breadth, or those stupid sayings that we have. It's like one.
Where do you draw the line? Because I think you do have to give the goalkeeper, because if you're gonna be so strict on this that goalkeepers are not going to be willing to even do anything until the ball is actually struck. You're making the goalkeeping job extra difficult. I think you gotta give them a little bit of leeway, I feel.
Well, we can only go on what the referee show, unfortunately. And then you have talked about that, and then you have our penalty decision. So so I think with that one, I'm trying to remember, because I've been
initially I thought it wasn't a penalty, to be fair. I thought it was just Rodriguez feels him in his back and just goes down willingly. But then if you look at the replay and you slow it down, you can see clearly that the defender has his forearm pushing against Rodriguez's back, and then he instantly lifts it up with both his arms in the air, oh, I didn't touch him, but you can clearly see that he's pushing him down with his forearm a little bit. So for me, that's a penalty.
And that's directly into the back of the player in the box. So more often than not, and the Alanya player is coming in with some speed, and Gary's only a little guy anyway, so he's going to go down. So to me, that's okay.
But that's not always enough, as we saw. What was it, last week?
Oh yeah, with old Donk and Pedro Enrique. Literally getting booted off the pitch. So again, you never know what the referee's going to do and what he's going to give on any given day. So for that, no issue with that being given as a penalty. In the back, Cruiser dispatching it quite well. We had a couple of good chances after that. Vedat had a few chances. We had Cruiser before the penalties, I think, had a couple of good chances. And then what happens is it's 1-1. We've had a penalty shout not given before then as well, where Wellington goes up to give a volleyball manchette, as they call it, which I think should have been a penalty. But let's come back to that afterwards. And then you've got Gelson just, it's back to the Gelson of the first couple of weeks, just silly mistakes. I'm not sure if it's because he's still a little bit naive or he just lost his head a little bit, but you can't tackle like that in the box. He just sticks his leg out, the player goes over the ball, and I have no issue with that being a penalty. That's like one of the most obvious ones you can see. Yeah. He quite quickly kicks the player's leg, and then Cisse steps up and misses it. I think he was having a fight with his teammate, wasn't he? Bakasetas.
Bakasetas, yeah. Apparently, Bakasetas was supposed to take the penalty. Somebody has to mute their mic, by the way. Bakasetas was supposed to take the penalty, apparently, and I saw a stat that Cisse has missed 5 of his last 7 penalties or something. Maybe as well after missing that first one, he should have let the honors go to someone else, and especially not claim that second one. That's very... I mean, for me, Cisse was just being... if I were in charge of the line, I would fine him. That's
Yeah. So and then
but you can see though he was. I mean, you know why he missed, because he was trying to put it high so Altay couldn't get it, and the fact that Altay saved his first one definitely put him off.
Yeah. So he's the second attempt. Again, and it went quite high, the second one. So he was trying to repeat that, I think, but he lost it a little bit and missed. And then we come down to the 2 penalties that weren't given to Fenerbahce. So we've got the first one, which was the
first one was in the first half, I think, though, wasn't it? The Bayano one.
Oh, you mean the Wellington?
Oh, Wellington, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so that's the one where I think the ball comes down from across, and we have Serdar Aziz challenging for the ball. You say he's corner. Pushing down.
He has his arm on his shoulder here.
And, that's going up for a challenge. No foul given. And the ball comes down, hits Wellington's arm, and goes off. And,
his arm is on his body, though.
Is it really?
I mean, if you cut off his 2 arms, it's just going to hit his dick.
Wow.
Hey, you're calling people Adana Lupic, I can't say dick, right?
Well, this is an 18 plus one.
I don't think... I'm going to have to put an R rating on this one. No, I don't think that's a penalty.
Beep.
Well, the ball drops out of midair, and you could argue.
He goes up for a header, though. You can clearly see that he even makes the heading motion. I don't think he gets it, but you can also then see that Serdar Aziz is pushing down on his shoulders.
But there was no foul given for that. Yeah. So if it was a foul, and the referee should have think, hang on, he's handballed it, I'm just going to give a foul because Serdar Aziz has challenged him. So if you're looking at the law, you could argue that the hand arm is close to the body and does not make the body unnaturally bigger. So let's give you that one. From it's not usually the offence if the ball touches a player's hand arm. Then you have the one right at the end of the match, which is the one that a lot of people have been discussing and talking about. Mm-hmm. And we've had backwards and forwards about this. We've spoken to other people, got the opinions of other journalists and referees, and it's been talked about for...
Yeah, for the record, everyone I've asked gives me the same answer. Now, and these are people that have nothing to do with Turkish football, mind you.
Yeah, so... you have to, take their opinions into consideration, but you're looking at a position. The ball comes in, so even looking at this full speed, you're looking at this. Ball is crossed in from the right hand side by Fenerbahce. Mm-hmm. It comes off I think Alanyaspor player. I don't know who it is.
Yeah, Vedat goes in for the shot, gets blocked with a sliding tackle, jumps up and hits Pektemek's arm.
Yeah, so you have Pektemek going forward, and some of our viewers watch wrestling, right? So imagine you're going to clothesline someone. So you've got your arm is out and it's ready. The guy's come back off the rope, so you're just looking at him thinking, "Come on!" And it's like a clothesline / lariat. And what he does, he just hits the ball with his outstretched arm, and. I don't know how it can be more clearer than that being a penalty based on the hand making the body unnaturally bigger.
Yeah, and that's where I asked the referee about what I asked the referee about, and I found their interpretation of that rule interesting.
Let's hear it. I love
yeah,
interpretations. I love it.
Let's read it. So this is coming from Dutch referee Jan ter Harmel from DutchReferee.com. He has a blog and he's doing a giveaway right now, I think, as well for something. So go check that out. So I sent him the footage of this. I didn't send him pictures or anything. I sent him the full footage, the full length footage, and I asked him to give his opinion on it. So this is what he said. I translated it from Dutch. The ball's trajectory is away from goal. That's the first point he makes. The only thing you might call for is the hand/arm has made the body unnaturally bigger, like Burak said. The idea behind this, if you make your body unnaturally bigger, then it doesn't matter if the ball comes in from close range. You're committing an offense. Yeah, so you're committing an offense. What makes this particular situation unique and also tricky is that the player, so Pektemek in this case, is being brought off balance by the players in front of him. You can also see, of course, that he tumbles down afterwards. The reaction with his arms to attempt to balance himself, to me, is a natural movement. Especially given the distance to the situation and the unexpected trajectory change. I would not award a penalty for this, is what his conclusion was. Yeah, so his interpretation is he's being brought off balance, which you can clearly see. It's not like, like you gave the example of the clothesline, but when you're going for a clothesline, your attempt is to actually clothesline someone. You can't say that that's the intention here. Like this, he has no clue where that ball is coming from. That arm is not there to stop the ball. That arm is purely there to balance himself. He also said some other stuff, by the way, that but I couldn't really make anything out of that because he said something like the arm being like in line with his body or something, and then it's underneath the shoulder still and stuff like that. But anyway. But yeah, so his main takeaway was that this is not an unnatural position because the player is trying to balance himself, trying to stay upwards, not to fall. So there, the interpretation of this unnaturally bigger becomes different again, where I think when we read that, we think, oh, okay, so the rule is that you can't like stand out with your arms spread, so you can't like make a bigger field to block the ball, basically. But his interpretation as a ref here is that the unnatural making your body unnaturally bigger doesn't just apply to giving yourself more of a chance to blocking a ball, but also the arm being in an unnatural position at the time of the motion, if you understand what I mean.
Oh, I understand what you're trying to say. It's the arm is in a natural position for what's happening to him. So he's tumbling, and a natural human reaction would be to put your arm out to the side to kind of get ready to cushion your fall or to kind of balance yourself. So, but at the same time as that being a natural position to take based on the movement of your body, it's also made your body unnaturally bigger at the same time. So it's two things happening at the same time. So that's where, as a referee, you have to think, okay, this is my opinion would be, okay, on one hand, his arm's out to the side, and that constitutes making your body unnaturally bigger. On the other hand, your hand is out to the side because you're falling off balance, and your arm is out to the side to maintain some kind of balance and maybe get ready to break your fall or get ready for some kind of impact.
Yeah.
So which one do you go for?
Yeah.
That's a tough thing. But for me,
it's true. Yeah.
That's like the fact that it's made the body unnaturally bigger takes precedence. because
that's the thing, you know. How do the referees interpret this unnaturally bigger thing? Like, is he making his body really unnaturally bigger, given that the arm is not? Because I think what the interpretation here is if you're making it unnaturally bigger, would your arm usually not be there in this situation? Do you understand what I mean? So are you actually making your body unnaturally bigger because the motion you're currently going through, your arm has no business being there in a natural movement? That's the interpretation from the referee that I'm what I gather from his statement here. And I just wanted to illustrate that, look, this whole spiel in Turkey is, of course, that the referees are you know, against team A or B or whatever. But this is a completely independent Dutch referee, has no connections to Turkish football, and he does follow the decision made here by the ref. So I'm just trying to point out that, look, the referee's decision here aren't necessarily malicious. And this isn't a black and white case of, understand what I mean?
I understand what you mean, but where you have these decisions consistently going against you, so let's say the two handballs in this game. So okay, we've discounted the Munchette by Wellington, you know, giving the setup to Marion Bos to spike it to take the girls to, you know, Tokyo 2020. And then you've got Mustafa Pektamek here turning into, JBL with a clothesline from hell. And then previously you've got the Trabzonspor match last week where you have the incident with the goal not being given for the supposed foul by Cruiser on Urucan, and then the penalty that wasn't given for the ball that struck the player's hand and went off the pitch. Mm-hmm. Then you go back to the Marafona incident coming off his line, a penalty retake not being given.
Yeah.
Then you go back to the
final, yeah.
Yeah, then you go back to the Antalyaspor game. Again, similar position to what we had with Atiba and Jarlson, you know, Isla getting the ball in. But you have to think, why are there so many mistakes and why is VAR not being consulted? Or as in, why is VAR not coming? It's not. I'm not saying why.
Is maybe part of the problem as well that Fenerbahce are focusing too much on these mistakes? I mean,
well, we should be focusing on the fact that we are not finishing our chances. Veda is being made to come too deep each game to get the ball, whereas you look at someone like Sørloth, he's getting the service and putting the goals in, whereas we're playing a different kind of football with our, you know, Tolga on the bloody wing. He's not a winger, and Gary, with his lack of ability to put good crosses in, he has done a few, but not as many as, say, an Ekoban or a Abdul Kadir Palmark when he was fit, or a Nwakayeme with his assists. But when you have so many refereeing decisions going against you, you can understand why the team is getting frustrated and more frustrated. And
I 100% agree, understand and agree with that. But I think you're not the only team that are having consistently poor decisions going against them. But then also those same teams will have certain occasions where the refereeing really went in their favor. And I'm sure if you look objectively at Fenerbahce's entire season, there have been moments where they were on the receiving end of a very favorable call. And the same thing goes for any other team, by the way. And yeah, definitely Fenerbahce are highlighting, and there's definitely lots of situations where Fenerbahce are highlighting these situations where you can definitely make a case for it. But then as well, I think at other points they're making flies out of elephants out of positions that aren't mistakes, and everything is getting added on top. Like, for example, we'll get to this later, but Gaziantep are for example, doing the same thing right now, of course at a much lesser scale, but it's getting out of hand. The standard of refereeing is without a doubt poor in Turkey. But I think one of the big it's a natural reaction, of course, that you're going to compare the referee's performance in this game to other referees. I think this referee did an okay job. I don't think he had a gross mistake. the first penalty for the handball by Charlton, my first inclination was, yeah, it's a penalty, it's a Stonewall penalty. But then the more I look at it, I'm like, that is a very unexpected ball coming in from that back heel, So it's I don't think it's deliberate. And then you have to go into that, like when I read the referee's statement here on the natural movement, basically. Is Jalson making a natural movement? I think he might be. So it's difficult. But yeah, I don't think it's this wasn't a screw job. I think.
I think Vince was on his ear. He's like, don't do it. It's not a penalty. Don't give it us, Turk, or you're dead. I think that is what was coming in via his ear.
Alienated half of our fans now.
Exactly, we lost him. I think the ref he tried to let the game flow, and we brought Faraday on, and I think he was very ineffective. Maybe the occasion kind of got to him with the atmosphere and everything. You could argue maybe he didn't have enough time, but he was a ghost when he came onto the pitch. Dennis did okay. He put in some okay crosses, but again, some of his corners were woeful and poor. So I'm not sure if he hadn't got warmed up to the pace of the game yet. And you have to remember that Alanya are a very good side.
Yeah, top 7
at home. And the way they've got a very good coach and a very good set of players that play some very good football. They defended with a very high line. They pressed us very early in the game. They nearly went 1-0 ahead because of a mistake from Ozan, who got caught ball watching, and luckily Altay was quite good in his one-on-one situation. And then we had a few more chances, and Alanya just defended well. Cruz had a chance he missed. Vedat had a couple of chances, and Gary had a few shots from outside the box that found the target but didn't do any damage.
And it's the same story as last week again. I think Fenerbahce play a decent enough game, create enough chances,
and get screwed by the referee.
But don't put them away. The efficiency of Fenerbahce might be a little bit of an issue as well. Like you said earlier, they're creating the chances, but they're not finishing them right now. I definitely don't like. This is back-to-back losses of points for Fener now, of course, but I'm not seeing a team that's playing poorly. But I think that Fener are kind of having that type of a season where, yes, there's the right mentality, there's the right spirit, but sometimes they just lack a bit of quality, and then I think you're just looking a little bit too much for penalties. I've seen the same with Beşiktaş this season, especially under Avcı, where there's just too much ineptitude to score yourself, and Fener don't have it to that extent. And then you're looking for penalties around every corner, whereas a team that's scoring, easily every match like a Trabzonspor right now, they don't have those big controversies because they are that strong and able to make a difference, without needing a penalty, which shouldn't be. I mean, if it's a penalty, it's a penalty. You shouldn't be earning it. I think that's one of the big things that have always annoyed me about referees, where I sometimes feel like a referee decides, and now it's more difficult with VAR, of course, but I so often I feel like a ref decides not to give a penalty because in his head they don't deserve it, the team doesn't deserve it, they're not playing well enough, in the spirit of the game, they don't deserve to get a penalty, even if it's a Stonewall penalty. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I do think there's just been a lot of too many systematic errors in our games for it to be considered a coincidence or a bad day at the office, and we wait to see what's gonna happen. You've got the Ankara Gücü chairman has now come out to say, "Oh, I hope this doesn't affect our game with Fenerbahce at the weekend." And it's every day something is happening in this league, and it's becoming just less and less fun to watch.
Yeah. But that's, of course, that's understandable what the Ankara Gücü chairman says, of course, because Fenerbahce are making a big fuss out of it, rightfully or not. I'll leave that in the middle, but of course that is putting pressure on the referee for the next game. And we have seen, like, before the the derby against Besiktas, a lot of pressure was being put on the refs, and they did get favorable calls there, or non-calls.
Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see what the Uncle Rikichi game brings. Hopefully, a good game of football with no controversy, but you can't seem to escape it with Turkish football. And I think it just comes down to an absolutely spineless Turkish Football Federation and the completely inept Merkez Hakem Kuruluşu, Hakem, like a referees association.
It's like this Beşiktaş Göztepe match, for the Kuralhatası. We're almost 2 weeks in, still no decision. I have the feeling like they're waiting to see how Beşiktaş do in these upcoming weeks, which they have some tough fixtures ahead, of course, with Başakşehir, Trabzonspor. So maybe if Beşiktaş lose those games, they'll be oh sure, you get your replay. Because it doesn't matter anymore anyway.
We wait to see, so we just have to wait and see what happens. But it's just extremely poisonous season of Turkish football so far, and it's going to get worse, folks. So strap in and buckle up.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about the team in form right now. The league leaders, Trabzonspor, they won 0-2 away at Gençlerbirliği at the weekend. But some stuff happened here too, some controversial stuff. Alexander Sørloth got sent off after an altercation with Baiano, who was kicking him repeatedly. Sørloth turned around, pushed the guy in the face. But it was not really a punch or anything, which people are trying to make out of it, I feel like. And of course, I'm not 100% sold on the penalty Trabzonspor got. Let's talk a little bit about that. First, Yakup. Yeah, what did you think from of the red card to Sørloth and the fallout on social media as well?
I just hate Turkish football right now. As Burak just said, it's just so fucking unbelievable. It honestly kind of looks and sounds like somebody wrote like a fanfic, and it's playing out. It really rivals things that you can see in the WWE. I just can't understand why we have to have controversial decisions, controversial moments every week, and I'm really getting tired of this.
To feed all the talk shows.
Yeah, I don't.
What is Erman Toroğlu and Ahmet Çakar supposed to talk about otherwise?
I mean, I don't listen to them anyway. I couldn't care less what they said. I just like it whenever they talk shit about Ali Koç, so I just retweet them every now and then. But it's
at Marofolo Yakup on Twitter, by the way.
Find me right away. I need some followers. I need that dopamine hit when people follow me. No, but the situation with Sørloth. Before we even get to that, there was a situation with the NDI in the first half. Did you? I remember that you were talking about it.
Yeah. That for me, it's a red card.
In my opinion, also a red card. I honestly don't see how the position before that was even a foul. It was just a shoulder-on-shoulder tackle, and I think that the same happened. That happened in our game against Fenerbahçe with Pereira and Serdar Aziz.
Yeah.
That Ndiaye got mad.
Exactly the same thing.
Ndiaye got mad, and he was like, "Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? I didn't even do anything," but he clearly headbutts him. I mean, I don't even want to call this headbutt. It's pretty much the same that Serdar Aziz did.
Yeah, pushing his head forward basically, but it's a headbutting motion, which I've always been told red card.
No, I'm going to say also a red card. So that's
maybe this is also usually, huh?
Yeah,
but he got a yellow card for this, so that means the referee saw it.
Yeah, just put fake terms in the EFAB rules, and you could always
And that's at 0-0 in the first half, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's at 0-0 in the first half, so it could have been a different match if Ndiaye gets sent off there.
Yeah, it was like in the 18th minute. But the big talking point in this game is obviously the Sørloth situation, which was such a fucking weird position to start with.
You've reached your cap on the F word now.
Yeah, I'm just I had too much sugar, I'm starting to feel it. I think that first of all, when you look at the situation just in real time, I first thought that Bayano should have been carded before even Sherlock became angry.
Hmm.
But when you look at what he did after that, um, I thought it was like a hitting motion. It could also be like a shove, but it kind of looked, yeah, it is a hitting motion, but he gets his face. I don't know if that even, defines it in a certain way.
It's a push for me, but Sirlot is a giant and Bayano isn't, so
I mean,
instead of pushing him in the chest, they pushed him in the face.
I thought it was a red card, but only because he pushed him in the face. If he
Yeah.
pushed him in the chest or whatever, I would have said a yellow card. But
It was a pretty forceful push, so I think
yeah.
a red card is warranted here.
But the controversial point comes now that he goes to VAR. He first gives a yellow. He goes to VAR, and then he looks at the position, and he still doesn't give. I do think that Bayano deserved the red because he kicked him twice really
Yeah.
hard on the leg.
Yeah.
And sure, I kind of agree with him giving Sirlot a red. But if you're going to give Sirlot a red, you have to also give Bayano a red. I just don't understand how we might have been called up by the VAR just for the situation that Sirlot created and not Bayano. It's just weird.
Yeah, it should have been. Both players should have gotten red card there. I think. Burak, what do you think as a man of the law?
Well, Bayano was violent play, and so was Sirloth. So I think you've got to send both of them off, and I don't know how you can see it any other way apart from that.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, pretty conclusive. What did you think of Trabzonspor's penalty, by the way?
I don't think that's a penalty. I think the Gençler player gets to the ball and the Trabzonspor player kicks his leg, and he goes down, and the referee goes to VAR, looks at it on the screen, and gives a penalty. I mean, this isn't like. The most clear example of this I can find is the Beşiktaş-Fenerbahçe match last year, which I go back to, where I think it's when Hasan Ali kicks Gökhan Gönül's foot.
Yeah,
and
leg, I think. Yeah.
And you can say, okay, Hasan Ali has been slow there, Gökhan's got the ball, and Hasan has clearly kicked his foot, and you can clearly see it on the VAR, where it was on this one. You can see that it's the Trabzon player that has gone to kick the ball, missed because the ball's not there, and he's kicked the Gençlerbirliği player's foot. And
doesn't he hit the ball though? I think he might have hit the ball, but
I mean, I wanted to interject and say I can understand Kaan maybe not seeing this because he uses like the 1945 black screen TV.
I watched it on my laptop too.
But I can't understand how you, Burak, just didn't see that Hussein does get the ball. He first gets the ball and then he gets kicked by Nadir Çiftçi, I think.
But does Nadir really? Because Nadir's leg is up there, and I feel like who's kicking? Is it Kampi or who is it?
Hussein Turkmen.
Yeah, so he's volleying. Nadir's foot is up in the air already, and I feel like Hussein's the one kicking Nadir's foot.
Yes, but it's the Gençler player who stood up.
I'm going to send a picture to the group so you can both watch.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it's like a dangerous play. Like the studs are all the way up, and Hussein tries to kick the volley, but hits the studs instead.
Yeah, so Hussein, that is the one that's kicked against our player's foot.
Hussein already got the ball.
So he's kicked the guy's foot. I don't see how that's a penalty.
But the foot is already up there. For me, it's not a penalty either. I don't know. And I've seen other people say it's 100% penalty, and I don't know.
Penalty.
For me, it's not a penalty. I don't know.
You cannot pull your studs up like that high.
His foot is up in the air, man. Your studs are gonna be up. I mean, it's not like he's pointing his studs at the Trabzon player. His foot is just up there.
He is pointing the studs up in the Trabzon player. What are you talking about?
No. Hussein's going for a volley from a different angle.
Are we all going crazy except, Umut and me?
I think that might be it. I think that's it,
Can
boys.
I get you guys some prescription glasses or something like that?
You cannot pull your studs up like that. It's
But Hussein's studs are also up, huh? I mean,
No, he's on laces. He's trying to hit the ball.
yeah, he's trying to hit the ball, yeah, but Umut is, or whatever, is it Nadir? Nadir's also trying to hit the ball with the side of his foot.
No, with the studs. No, he's not even trying to hit. He's not even.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
He's just pulling his leg up, like trying to defend.
And let us know your opinion at Footy Alla Turca. Did you think it was a penalty? Yes or no? Oh, I have to mention that fantastic Nwakaeme goal, by the way. Really good goal.
Yeah, really great pass by Sherlock to put it just like in front of him perfectly.
Yeah, and strong work in the build-up too from Sherlock.
Yeah, and the controversial position with Sherlock, we just kind of passed by. It had a fallout on social media because everything nowadays has to have a fallout on social media. There were some messages from Baiano to Sherlock saying that he kind of lost his cool. It wasn't in his nature to do stuff like this, and he had a statement on his Instagram in Turkish, I think, and then he got Sherlock's number and he messaged him asking if he was Sherlock, and as I said on Twitter, Trabzonspor had a hard time going to Trabzon because of the snowfall, so it took like a full day before they could go to Trabzon with a bus. And Sherlock responded to him, telling him that it's fine, what happened, and that the only reason why he pushed him was because he got kicked so hard on the legs.
Yeah.
And
he was trying to protect himself.
Yeah, and Baiano immediately copy pasted a message to him saying that my English isn't very very good. I'm not fluent, and I want to say sorry.
The timestamp was both 1349 or something.
Yeah, so
I mean that is some bullshit there. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so a lot of people, including our very own Burak, have put on their detective glasses and said that how could a guy that is not fluent in English write a whole paragraph apologizing in
it's a good point,
a nanosecond.
Yeah, but then again, why would somebody put that out there? And I mean, Baiano could easily just shoot that down, and
it's the easiest thing to refute.
Yeah.
So easy. That is never happening because you have to allow time to read the message in English, digest it, and then compose a 15-line reply with no typos, maybe a little bit of dodgy grammar in there, but that is the biggest load of bullshit ever, man. I mean, I know it's Oscar season, I mean, you're looking at maybe all for best adapted screenplay there or
maybe
something.
Maybe he had it written already.
That's what I'm trying to say. There are two options. Either you're a reasonable person and you think okay, he went to the translator, he told him okay, this is what I want to say. Can you translate it for me? And the moment he got an answer from Sherlock confirming that it was actually Sherlock, he just copy pasted it. On the other hand, there's a different scenario. Berat Albayrak, the big mastermind of the Turkish Football Federation, the financier,
son-in-law of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey.
Yeah, a known Trabzonspor fan, the minister of treasury. He just he pulls the string. He tries to, for some reason, earn Trabzonspor some compassion on Instagram.
Changes
on
his wife's number on his phone to his name in WhatsApp to Baiano or Sherlock.
Yeah, I mean, wake up, sheeple. Obviously, this is just a huge conspiracy, and I'm so done because I don't know if you guys I did put it in the group app. Yesterday put out a statement saying that Baiano had some racist things said against him, and I'm just so done with this this violent vocal group that for some reason thinks that a player should be called names and whatever.
Yeah. The internet heroes.
I'm so done with the social media crowd that just I get it. I'm okay with people complaining about certain players, but racism is a line that you shouldn't cross, that nobody should cross.
Not even as a joke, even if you
No.
don't mean it, you shouldn't be saying those things.
And seeing this after having that whole Obi Mikel thing blow up, I'm just I can't wait for this season to end.
What did you think of Fenerbahce's statement on that, by the way, Burak? Were you...
Excuse me?
What did you think of Fenerbahce? Because we said last week that we wanted Fenerbahce... we expected Fenerbahce to make a statement on the whole fallout on Obi Mikel getting some racist messages on his in his DMs and stuff like that. What did you think of Fenerbahce's statement? Was it...
Brilliant statement.
Okay?
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't take issue with the fact that Fenerbahce went from, oh yeah, this is wrong, but the real victims here are Fenerbahce. And Turkey, of course. The reputation of Turkey.
Well, the statement was made in such a way to say we condemn any racist abuse of language, which we all do, but it also maintained that the way it was presented by Trabzonspor was aşağılayıcı to Fenerbahce. So that was also covered in the statement, and it was firm but very fair, and it got the message across that we wanted to portray, which was to say we completely disown and are against any racist language as a football club to any player, no matter who they play for, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, handball.
But why aren't Fenerbahce trying to be maybe the bigger man here, classy, and just say we are with Trabzonspor against the fight of racism. We don't accept this type of behavior. People who do this aren't Fenerbahce fans, and if we can, we will ban them for life or something like that. That's all you have to say, and you don't have to throw dirt afterwards, and you don't have to, because I think the reaction is to Trabzonspor, but isn't it really the media that they should be reacting to if they're going to be reacting to anyone? Because it's not Trabzonspor who's putting out the rumors that Emre racially abused Obi Mikel. That's not Trabzonspor doing that. That's people in the media. That's like fan websites and Twitter accounts and idiots.
The way it was portrayed was to make Fenerbahce look bad.
But not by the club, not by Trabzonspor. So why attack Trabzonspor?
The Trabzonspor statement made a point of saying after the match with Fenerbahce. So
because that's the fact.
That's what happened, though.
Yeah, but the way it was portrayed by the Trabzonspor media and the Turkish media put Fenerbahce into a corner, exactly. And we felt the need, rightfully, I believe, to make this statement in the way that we made it, and I am fully behind it.
I honestly think that the statement that Fenerbahce made is so tone deaf. The easiest thing that they could have done was just going out and saying, "Listen, we are against racism. We don't condone it. We also think that the people that were responsible for this should be punished. And if we find out who they are and if they have like season tickets, we will cancel them." Just so simple.
Exactly. That's all you have to do.
You don't.
And then you are 100% the good guy. In this.
You don't even have to do it. You just say it. You don't even have to do it. And the statement from Trabzonspor, the only thing that they said is that Obi Mikel was racially abused via social media after the Fenerbahce game. They didn't talk about Emre. They didn't talk about the fans, the quote unquote fans being Fenerbahçeli. But it got pulled into such a way that I've heard people saying, yeah, but Trabzonspor said that Emre did this. Obi Mikel immediately denied that Emre said anything. Trabzonspor President Ağoğlu also did the same thing, said that Emre didn't racially abuse anyone. And, as I said, only thing that you had to say was, we don't condone it. we also want to punish those guys, but for some reason, I know why Ali Koç is doing this. He's trying to create a
Us
Fenerbahçe against the
against
world
them.
narrative.
En een Calimero gedrag.
Yeah,
They're always the victim in
yeah,
every situation.
and it was fun. The first couple of times this happened, but I know that a lot of fans, not only Trabzonspor fans, are starting to get a sour taste in their mouth because nereye kadar yani how much can you complain about pretty much everything. Um, I'm just done. I'm just done with the unnecessary controversy that just gets created from like the simplest things. Um, the stuff with Obi Mikel is absolute bullshit. The stuff with Bayano yesterday is absolute bullshit. I just hate this new world of football
It's the age we live in.
I just hate this new world of football where teams are on social media, so they have to put out statements left and right.
Yeah.
I never see this in the Dutch league. In the Eredivisie, I never see stuff like this. Why do we have to be like why do we as Turks have to be so one-sided in controversial things? You either are against it or are for it, and it's never like it's just gives me such a headache sometimes.
Yeah, and let's unless Burak wants to get something in here, let's.
I don't need to. I think I've said my piece and I stand by it, and it was done in the correct way for the club.
Yeah. Let's end on a high note or on a low note. If your name is Joe Gould and you just selected Gaziantep Football Club as your new favorite Turkish club. Shout out to Joe, of course, loyal follower and listener of the podcast. So the last match was not the last match of the match day, but the last match we'll be talking about was Beşiktaş Gaziantep Football Club. Sergen Yalçın's second match in charge of Beşiktaş. Relatively easy 3-0 win. But again, low level of officiating. I felt like lots of goals getting disallowed here. 4 goals in total. Beşiktaş scored 4 goals, and I think all 4 were disallowed for offside. Of course, the third one that got disallowed did end up going to VAR and was then awarded a penalty for a handball. The offside decisions on the first 2 were clear and correct. I think on the fourth one that got disallowed, which was Umut Nayir's goal, I don't really understand why that got disallowed. And then the third one, I think that's the biggest controversial thing here. Initially, my first thought was that's never a penalty because his arm is just next to his body. But then Sinan the other day pointed out to me that he apparently has his other arm underneath his arm, and then like his hand is sticking out, and he like touches the ball with that or something. Either way, I don't really understand why there's a penalty here, because under the new offside rule, if a defending player deliberately plays the ball, it lifts any offside. Beşiktaş have been the victim of that last season against Antalyaspor. They have also benefited from it in the I think this season with Güven scoring a goal from an offside position where the defender headed it through. So I don't really understand why the goal gets disallowed and a penalty is awarded. Is that just to give Gaziantep a second chance at maybe saving the penalty or something? Gaziantep also put out a statement, I believe, after the match on that penalty. But I think they're probably not aware of that offside rule change. What did you guys make of that penalty and the decision of the referee to not just allow the goal? Burak, as man of the law, I'm really interested in hearing your opinion.
That's a really bizarre one. I mean, I'm trying to find reference to it in the EFAB book, and I've not been able to search it very well, or it's been written in such a way that it's made no sense to me, and I've just glossed over it, not realizing that it is talking about what happened in the position. But I'm, bemused. Why would you not just give the goal? I don't see any reason for it to be pulled back.
One of the stupidest rule changes in recent years, in my opinion. By the way, I don't understand how they made that decision.
But the ref was it Alper Ulusoy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
There you have it, number one pitch. So you can't,
No,
absolutely. Number one. He's the son of Hulk, so he's pitch lickers in the family. So
is he?
Yes.
Really? I didn't even know that.
There you go. So I've got no idea what he was playing out there with, but I don't know, gobsmacked. Maybe again he just needs to go on a course and learn the rules, I guess.
Yeah. Otherwise, another penalty position towards the end at 2-0. Gökhan Gönül trips Kenan Özer, I want to say, former Beşiktaş Academy player. Gökhan even goes up to the referee and says that he made contact. Referee just has none of it and just gives Kenan a yellow card and doesn't award a penalty there. Odd decision again. I mean, the defender, goes and tells you, look, I touched him. Why would you still uphold that yellow card then? Makes no sense. I mean, yeah.
It looked very soft by Gökhan Gönül, to be fair. It was like one of those ones where the player leaves his foot in until the very last moment to get the slightest touch.
Yeah, but it's not a dive if there's contact. At least you can say, okay, no penalty, but why do you give the yellow card still?
Because the referee is who he is, and he's an incompetent piece of shit. That's why.
Otherwise, what did you think of the two first disallowed goals? That was clear. What did you see the Umut goal? Why do you agree with that disallowment?
To be honest, there were so many goals in this game that let in disallowed. It was turned out to be a very easy 3-0 for Beşiktaş. So I didn't really focus too much on the disallowed goals, to be fair. But I think we need to. Just going back to Trabzon Gençler, we need to give a shout out to, was it Nadir Çiftçi? For one of the misses of the season as well.
That tap in at the far post.
Absolute fucking donkey. But I'm just trying to look at the Beşiktaş positions now for the goals. I mean, when I was watching, I caught some of the game live, and then I was watching extended highlights. I didn't see anything that was to say, oh, that was a really contentious offside, or that was let me look at that disallowed goal again in more detail.
No, the first half were clear. Those two goals in the first half, both assists from Burak Yilmaz, but Burak offside on both positions. But the first time in a while that Burak has looked this lively, making that many runs. I really felt like under Avci he was static. I think he was still suffering from his beginning of the season injury. He slowly but surely seems to be getting back into his form.
Saracens taking him down the racetrack for morale. That's what it is. He's taken him out on the town. They've had a few bets on some horses, and they had some köfte at the famous Beşiktaş köftecisi around Beşiktaş in Istanbul, and it's just brought him back to life.
I can't eat köfte. It gives me gas, man.
Well, you're not a true Beşiktaş fan if you're not.
I love köfte, but I don't like the aftermath.
Well, it's worth
That's
it.
a personal fact about me.
The more you know.
Little bit too much, but
if you want to crack my email address, maybe that's my secret answer. Köfte gives me gas.
But let's show some love to Prince, as he has on the back of his shirt. It's like he's come on for his debut at home, substitute appearance, and in typical Kevin Prince Boateng fashion, he scores a backheel goal and does a backflip, which almost goes wrong, and I'm surprised he didn't dislocate his shoulder.
Great goal, though.
Knowing the Beşiktaş injury risks, he just immediately tears his ACL trying to do a backflip.
Yeah, fantastic goal. Also, the Ibrahim Tatlis's music playing as he scores. Yeah, great impact for him. It's a shame Özür isn't on here because he's a big Kevin Prince Boateng fan. yeah, no better way to make your debut for a team, I think. And Beşiktaş will need him. Beşiktaş have lacked that. I feel that presence in the box, that extra body that makes runs into the box. Yes, ever since Talisca went to China, Beşiktaş haven't really had that. And maybe we'll see him starting next week against Başakşehir. But anyway, if simple win for Beşiktaş, they had to win this. They had to win last week too against Rizespor. It was by the skin of their teeth. This was a little bit more comfortable. At the end of the day, this could have been a 5-6-0 maybe. But Gaziantep didn't look very, very good. In the first half, they had a couple of dangerous counters, but they were so impressive last week against Sivasspor. It felt like they had spent all their gunpowder last week and just had none left for this one. But I think that'll do it for this week. Of course, we have some interesting fixtures coming up next week with Beşiktaş Başakşehir match. That's, I think, the one that jumps out the most. And in 2 weeks' time, of course, we have the big Fenerbahçe Galatasaray derby. So who are Fenerbahçe playing next week, Burak?
Ankaragücü.
Okay, and Trabzonspor, who are they playing?
Sivas at home.
Oh, interesting. Probably without Surlov?
Yeah, probably. I see him using Ekuban as his forward. Or maybe Sturridge.
Yeah. And Galatasaray, of course, as we already mentioned, are playing Yeni Malatyaspor next week. But, of course, just go to your BN Sports app, check it yourself, check the standings yourself, do it all yourself. We're changing the format, damn it. Anyway, folks, on the 20th of February, we will be 1 year old. We'll be celebrating our 1 year anniversary. And to celebrate that, we are giving away one 2019-2020 football jersey of any Turkish club, providing we are able to order it online and have it shipped to you. So if it's like Tuzlaspor and they don't offer shirts online or whatever, sorry, pick another team, But as long as it's readily available online and we can get it out to you easily, that's those are fair game, so you can take a second division side if it's possible. It doesn't matter for us. So in order to participate in this contest, go to our Twitter account at @FootyAlaTurca. Find the giveaway tweet. It's one of the more recent tweets. Retweet it, follow our Twitter account, and also comment on that tweet by adding a print screen showing that you subscribe to Football a la Turca. It doesn't matter on what app it is, if it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, it doesn't matter. As long as you show that you subscribe to the podcast. And then you have a chance, you'll be automatically entered into the contest. And on the 25th of February, our episode of the 25th of February should normally come out on the 25th, but maybe, you never know. But that week, we will announce the winner on the show, and that person will get to pick a free shirt of the 2019-2020 season. So don't miss that opportunity if you're listening to the podcast anyway. Make sure to go and participate in the contest.
Yeah, we'll pin the tweet, actually, so as soon as you go to our profile on Twitter, you can see it as the pinned tweet. I'll do that for you after the show.
Fantastic. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week, of course.
More chaos loading. I can't wait to see what happens next week. I want to see if it's like Ray Donovan or something like The Sopranos. It's got to be madness. Absolute theatre.
Undoubtedly.
God, yeah.
Stranger Things.
Hey, yeah. God, to see. We will wait and see, and we will be ready to tell you, dear listeners, all about it.